Hello everybody and welcome to another tutorial in camera and lens repair. And this time I will take my old HELIOS 44M, and it's a aperture 2 and a 58mm. The normal kind of, and well, it's really stiff in the focusing ring. And I would like to actually dig into what can be done. I know other people also have, on YouTube they have make videos about it, but I think okay, I will also. Let's see what it will be. The aperture is working, and everything else is working. I think this one is the type 3, which as I look into the other YouTube channel called Retro Focus, he works a lot with Russian lenses. So, and he has was it 6 or 8 types of different, and this one should be a type 3, as I know, depending on where some letters are on the depth of field scale here. Well, I really don't know, but I have been into the lens because it was so sticky, and the what you say, the grease was absolutely dried out, almost most of it. And yeah, let's see what we can do about it. But we need some tools to actually work with. It's not very special tools in this case. It will be a 2.5mm flathead screwdriver, nothing special, and a 1.2mm is also very good, because you will need it to the small set screws. Pair of tweezers, or maybe only one, a curved one or a straight one would be fine. Maybe we'll also use this one. Well, I don't know yet. But we need, really, if you only have a dentist tool like this, it's really good to make scratch, and we will make scratch in this lens. I already buy it, so I can do whatever I want with it, but you will not see any scratch outside the lens, but inside is a different thing. That's my backup, kind of, for assemble the lens again. Now, I found this tool in a modeling scale shop, or whatever you call it. But it has 2 different tips, a really big one and a small one. And it's really good. I will put a link in the description. It's called something like Flexifile, and is ultra fine needle point scriber. And you can get it on flexifile.com. So, but yeah, I will put the link in the description so you can see what they have. And it's actually possible to unscrew one of these pins and take out the needle, and you can then in that way exchange it with another one. But I like it, and I use it very often because yeah, it's actually cheaper than buying another of dentist tool. Well, I buy the dentist tool in second-hand shops that sells everything from, yeah, whatever. But just to tell you, there are more options out there, and you do not really need to have special tools. But we can do a lot with normal tools. But We also need to dig in to take off the nameplate, name ring, whatever. And well, I can use my rubber cones, which is fine in some cases, but if you do not have it, you can go to the hardware store and look into the plumbers section, where they have pipes and gasket for whatever the plumbing industry. And this one is this one example. Oh, you can see the light is not that good. We change it a little, so I think it's better. Well, you can see this one is a 1¼ inch, which I think will be the inner square. I mean the inner pipe, or the other, maybe, I don't know. But it's really good sticky rubber, which is really good to, for example, unscrew a nameplate, because it can fit in the space here. There is also another one which can be, if you cannot find this type here, here's another one, but also very sticky. But, well, you can probably find them on something called Moly, or Moly, I don't know. And but they're really good and they're cheap, so you probably can get some of those in a very different, I mean, very cheap way. But let's I forgot something. We need some grease, and I'm actually very happy with this Liquid Moly, the long life grease, which have a good, very good feeling and works really good, and have a good temperature range from something like minus 30 up to plus 130, which is quite a lot. Oh, sorry for the hopefully you can see it well. I think it works really good with the lenses, not every lens, but in I actually have used it in some lenses, which I'm quite happy with. So let's go for it. One special tool, which I will come into when assembling the lens, is this little piece of sheet metal, stainless steel. And I made it actually for putting in the two, I mean, remember, there are two steel balls here, one on each side, of because they make the aperture click, and also the half stop click. But to get the balls in before you put the aperture ring on can be really tricky. And that's why I made this, and it has the same curve or curvature or something like the inner, where the steel ball is on each side. So, but let's get into it. Okay, I will just use this one, and we simply unscrew the nameplate. One can use you can use a tool like this, or you can use a tool like this one if you have that. But I prefer to not scratch the nameplate, so I stick with the rubber because it's really good. So just unscrew it counterclockwise, and that's very easy. It's all metal, as you can hear. So there. Now set the lens to something like infinity. I mean, mine is actually really hard to turn. It is it's really hard to turn, so it's not really that easy to, if you only have one finger, and making films or videos with it. So it's really hard to turn. But next thing is the front ring here. We need to take off. But before doing so, and here comes the where I set marks, because things has to sit correct when you put it back in again. So I actually make a scratch here. Hopefully you can see it on the front ring here. The next ring, which is part of the helicoid, actually the inner helicoid, and the last one, which is a retaining ring that is part of the optic block or so assembly. So just make a full scratch all the way from, hopefully you can see it down here, and all the way up in line with the index mark. That's our reference point for this, and it's good to have this because then everything is in line. Now unscrew the 3 screws with the 2.5mm screwdriver. Sometimes those old lenses can have some, you probably can see there are some red on the screws. It's old, dried out thread lock. But if it's, let's say, if it's too sticky or so, one can use some isopropyl alcohol, 99%. With a cotton bud, you simply add a little on it here and let it suck in, and let it sit a little. I mean, it's not a problem here, but just let it sit a little, and gently unscrew the screw. I mean, if it's too tight, or you can try clockwise and counterclockwise, and in that way unscrew it gently. I mean, the screws are all steel, and it's good to work with a magnetized screwdriver. In this case, it will make it a lot easier. Now off with the front ring here, which is nothing special. It's just is it magnetic? No, it's all aluminium. And then we look into the front of where the helicoid is. The inner helicoid is here, and the brass, which is the outer here, is made of, yeah, the inner is actually made of aluminium, and the middle helicoid, we say, is made of brass. And before we continue, it's very important in this case, you see, the lens is set to infinity, right? And on the inside here, in line with the index mark, you set a scratch here. And you also set a scratch here, where the that's the inner helicoid, and you also set a little mark on the, I mean, a little scratch on the middle helicoid ring. So everything is in line, and you probably can see there is also a mark down here where it will say the inner of the focusing ring itself. Actually, not the focusing ring, it's the brass middle helicoid. Now, so we know exactly where the lens assembly should sit. It will actually come that way out, and that's why I need to unscrew the back here, which sits with 3 screws there, there and there. Not this, because it's only for the manual auto button. So we can unscrew the 3 screws here on the back. Is longer screws, and when you unscrew things, if you arrange them like I have here, put the screws into the parts where they belong to, it will help you in the assembly process. So there. And before we continue, actually I forgot, we just set the aperture ring to 16. So the aperture is actually closed. Let's set the button to M. Now we can in that way take off the mount, and just so we have things in place. There is a tiny pin in here, which is the connection from the aperture system in the lens assembly to the little fork kind of thingy here. This one. It will actually move. It will actually move when the lens is set to auto. So if I move the pin here on the back, which is connected to the camera, you can see it will work like this. A lot of pins and springs that moves. You probably can see it here. And if I set it to M, it will fully open the aperture, and then, I mean not fully open, but it will use it as not the camera that makes the aperture. It will be the manual movement of the aperture ring. So in that way, move the aperture in here. So now the next thing is the aperture ring itself. You see, if we have the reference to the index mark here, there are 2 steel balls. You see here the index mark, and here I can tell because I've been into the lens, there should be 1 steel ball here with a little spring, and on the opposite side of the lens there is 1 over here next to the screw hole here, and that I can actually take apart, but I think it's better to just pull out the, and with a little bigger tweezer, take out the inner aperture movement ring with 2 pins on each side, I mean 1 on each side, and a gap that moves with a notch on each side, so the lens assembly can actually be moved when focusing. And just to put things in place, we do so. Now, next thing is, if you don't want the 2 springs and the 2 steel bolts just fly away when you take off the aperture ring, it's good to have a hand on, I mean a really tight hand on it, and lift up the aperture ring. In this case here, the grease is really old and sticky, and will really not do much of because everything is so sticky, so the steel ball will still be there. and you can probably see it here. And I will just take it away, put it aside somewhere, and the other one is here, just moved a little. Now here you can see the aperture ring. There are 12 notches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, there are more on one side than the other. So keep it aside, and we can also take out the 2 small springs which is inside here. They're quite long, as you can see, and if it's difficult to put in the steel ball again, which can be a problem, it's just good to turn the springs to the opposite way into the hole. So that was part of it. I mean, now we have a almost naked focusing system, but before we continue, now there's one thing. It's really tight focus, really hard to move it. Now to put things back in again, correct, just use another tool. Set a mark here, so you're in line here, and it's in line with the mark, the index mark. Also set a mark here and here. And one thing is really important: you do not need to unscrew those 2 guide pins, because when you unscrew the 3 screws here on the back, you can simply pull out the whole lens assembly. But one thing you can do, if you by accident come to unscrew one of those, you set a letter here in. I mean, somebody else has been into the lens before me, and they put a P or something, and you can also make a letter, whatever you want, so, and simply make a letter here, and we can also write a P here, just so we have things in place and you know where those things sit. On one side it looks like the screws are countersunk, and on the other side not. But, well, I don't know. One thing that could be, because I did not take off the guide pins, which in my case was not necessary, but you could actually set a scratch here on the side and on the other side, and I think it's not important over here because the screws are countersunk. So maybe one side is only the holes are a little bigger, so you can adjust it to have it tight or loose in the guide pins, I guess. But that should be okay, and we can actually just, to make sure things sit correct, we could write a letter P here, or whatever letter. So now everything is fine at the moment, and yeah, that should be that. Since I possibly cannot move the focusing ring, okay, it is possible. Good. Now, next thing is, I will take off the focusing ring itself. And it's important when you take off the focusing ring, which sits with 3 screws, set screws here, there, and sometime over here. Now, when you pull the focusing ring off, you do not have to move that's why it is so important to set marks here. You should not move the middle brass helicoid, because at the moment the middle helicoid is set to infinity mark, and what I need is actually, when I take off the focusing ring, is measure from the inner helicoid, the surface here, to the very back here, and also the same with the brass helicoid to the back. That's important because part of it is multi-thread and another part is single thread. So just so we have everything in place and correct measure, it's possible to put it back in one go and not do a lot of try and error. But that's why it is so important to set marks before you, and measure also before you take it apart. Now, with the 1.2mm flathead screwdriver, we just loosen it. Loosen the 3 screws just a few turns, so it's loose, but not unscrew it. So something like that. That should be enough. And the last one. That should be fine here. And now it should be possible, maybe one of those has to be unscrewed, loosen a bit more. But you see, it comes out. Nothing special. This is the stop for the, when you turn it to infinity, this will be the stop for that. And this stop is the near end for the focusing ring. Now put it aside and see, in here I actually set more scratch. No, I will not destroy it, but it's my reference. So you see the index mark here, and I also set a mark here because that is infinity, and it's in line with the 2 helicoids here on the front. So I do not need to do much more than just pull out the lens assembly by unscrew those 3 screws with my 2.5mm screwdriver. But before doing so, that's the thing, I wrote some notes on this because it's also important to know the distance between the very front of the inner helicoid at infinity to the back here. Not the back here, no, but the back here. Well, you could also use this surface here, but well, it depends on how you measure it. And since I have 2 of those calibers, I will just set it to here, and because I've been into it, I measure it before. It should be something like can you see it? Oh, it's difficult. Yeah, 28.78 or so, depending on how it sits, but at least something like 28.77. maybe it's 80, it doesn't really matter. And we also have to measure the brass ring to the back, which will be something like 10 or so. As you can see, it's important. So now I know my exactly point of where the helicoid is both the inner and the middle and the connected to the yeah. Yeah, I don't know what it is, but the back of it. Okay, so we can unscrew it. And actually I can also unscrew the depot ring, which I just have to set a mark here somewhere so you know exactly position. So just loosen the 3 screws, the 3 set screws here, just a little, and with the end of this lens should be from something like 95 or sorry, 75 or so, as I understand the way they numbering the lens. I have no idea. So unscrew that and it should be off. So here we are in this. Now then we can turn the, you see, I also make a scratch all the way from this point here, which is my index mark line, all the way up here, so I know the exact position. So unscrew the lens assembly. So there. Come on, little fellow. The screws are not that long. There it is, and here we are. And also again, if the screws are too tight, you can just use some isopropyl alcohol to simply dip a little on each screw. Now if we turn it here, we can see how it comes loose, and simply wiggle it out a little. It's tight fit, so you can see how it will be. So it is. And here is the lens assembly with the aperture system. And if we hold this pin here, we can turn the aperture ring. No. So it is. Now, it will not, it's not part of this case here. Now, here we are, the full focusing assembly block. So I also made some, I mean, how long will it take to unscrew the inner helicoid? And I already measured from the front here to the very back here. And it will come loose by turn it, I mean unscrew it 1.5 turn till off. So it should come off at around 6 o'clock. If we say this is 12 o'clock, and if we turn it, it will come off at around here. Maybe it's more 5:30 or so. Could be 6 o'clock is here, but this would be something like, yeah, 5:30. So, and it's really stiff, so I can see if it, wow. And just to remember, my reference mark is this here, which I scratched in the very beginning under the nameplate. So have a good grip on the outer focusing ring and turn it clockwise if we look from the front. It's really tight. That was half a turn, and and my mark is here. That was one full turn. So it will come off around here. It's getting more loose. Yes, there. Whew, really tight. And it should come off there. So now I know the exact position, and you can see the old grease is really stiff actually. It's really bad. And also on the inside of the helicoid, the outer helicoid of brass, and it has to turn around 7 turn till off at around 11 o'clock. It will say. Where did I set the mark? Here, yeah. The mark is set here. So, in reference to my index mark in the beginning, I can unscrew it, and it has to turn. It's really, it's loose in a bad way. Whoa. So my reference mark is here, and I should turn it something like, if we look from the front, counterclockwise 7 turns. So we will count. The reference mark is here, and it says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and a little bit more. So you can see it comes off here at my reference mark is there, and the other one comes off here, something like that. So I can actually just set a mark here where it should be around there. So that's it. And now it's time for cleaning. Look at the all the old grease. It's really bad. So if I actually take a screwdriver, you see, hopefully you can see it. It's really bad. There is no effect of the grease. It's all dried out. So I will go and clean it, and I will be back in a moment. Hello, and then we continue. And after some cleaning of these different rings, we can continue by lube the re-grease the helicoids focus ring and the aperture ring, and all the parts here. Not really much, but I actually make a little test about how good will the liquid moly LM47 be in this lens. And it was simply too stiff, way too stiff. So, and I was trying different other loops. I also tried the LM50, which is lithium grease. In some cases, in other cases, it's really good, but no. So I tried some Loctite grease. Yeah, they also produce grease and other stuff, and it's called the 8106, and it's okay grease, but not in this case. So I think I will try to use the Japan Hobby Tool grade 30. I think the grade 10 from Japan Hobby Tool is a bit too loose. So, but I think I will use the grade 30, even if, and maybe other people out there has the same problem. It separate. I know it's really difficult to see in the strong light, but the oil has separate from the grease. Not so much, but still. So I think I will use the one that is, I mean, it's difficult to see, I know, but hopefully, no. I will use the stiff part of it and not use the one that is in the bottom of the jar, because there is way too much oil. The oil separated. So I think I will try with this, and hopefully it will work. So we can just continue by re-grease the parts here. I think I will start with the back and the brass ring, and just use a little. I use a makeup brush or something. You can buy them in the makeup shops or perfume shops or something. It's really good for this work, and I think it will work pretty good. Doesn't have to be much of grease. Less is actually more, but it doesn't have to be much grease on those helicoids. Let's see. I think we will try with this, and just let's see, where is it, the brass ring. And as you remember, we set some marks in the beginning, and I measure how long and short the distance from the front to the back, and on my notes is actually here, so you can take a look at it, and maybe it can be very useful. Now, I set the mark here, which is the where the index mark is when we assemble everything, and I also set a mark here on the brass ring. Hopefully it can be seen, which is the same mark here. It's in line with the index mark at infinity, but the ring comes off. Oh, come on, autofocus. This ring comes off a bit more. I mean, it's actually coming off at around 7 turns till it gets off at around 11 o'clock. It will say something like, if we have the index mark here, it will be something like here, after 7 turns. So, and I will simply put it on here, because I have a mark here where it came off. So I wrote on here 7 turn till off, just so we know that. And it will be something like there. I'm not quite sure if it really is a multi-thread or it's a single thread. We can find out by going backward, and if it sticks into one thread, it's a single thread there. Now then we go from here, not from the point where it goes on the thread, but more on the index mark here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then you can simply just move it a little. It's not, I think it's okay. Maybe it's a little too stiff, but I can always change it. But for now, I think it's fine. That's it, part of it. And then we can put in the inner helicoid, which will have something like 1.5 turn, and it should come off around here, around 6 o'clock or so, something like here. And since I also set a little mark here in the beginning, I know exactly position of this one, because this ring, this helicoid ring, has multi-thread. So there are many starting points or end points. So which one is the correct one? Yeah, the only thing that tells that is the mark I set. So that's why it is so important to set marks before you disassemble anything. And of course also measure. And we can actually right now, since I put the brass ring on the back here, the base, I can simply measure. There should be something like it's here, here, and as you can see, it's 28.10. That's correct, and it's actually the same here. So the helicoid is in correct position. Now then we can continue. Where's my brush here? Then we can continue with the inner, and also add a lot of grease. Just have to add a little and then spread it around. Put the ring on and then go back and forth many times, and it will be spread in that way. And if there is too much, well, you can just unscrew it again and simply wipe away if there is too much on it. Maybe it's a little too much, we can just take it away a little. Yeah, I think it'll be fine for now. Just put the ring on. My index mark is here, and since I came off around here, this one is here, so I simply go a little, starting before the off point, and simply find the thread. It should say click or something. There. Yeah, not correct. Let's see what's happened. Go a little farther back. Yeah, no, there. And then give it a good go, back and forth, so the grease in that point will spread a little. It's not that stiff, but yeah, maybe I will change it later, but I think it will be fine. And then I should end up somewhere here at my starting point, and my point is here, so you see the marks are actually in line with the from the front to the brass ring to the index mark, everything is in line. So I can actually measure from the very front to the very back here. There should be something like 28.77. And let's see if everything is correct there. Well, it should be something like that. Yeah. Well, what can I say? It's correct. Assemble it. So everything is in line and can be in that way be assembled. Now then put the the profile ring comes on, and there are, I just screw the set screws just a little in, because so they will not disappear when I clean it in earlier. And just a few turns, not unscrew it, it's not necessary. Now, since I have a mark here, and I also have my index mark here, which I also set a little tiny mark. Come on. Since I have the index mark here, and I also set a tiny mark here, I know the exact position. But also, because the screw, the boring, which where the screw is sitting, when they sit correct, it should be like that here. And then I can just screw it in just a little, so you can align the ring. Don't tighten them yet until all three are almost in, something like that. And you can see everything is correct. Not tighten too much. So, there. So, what's next? Yeah, I think I will take the optic assembly and put it in. And since I also, in the beginning, that's why it is so important to make that notes and scratches, even whatsoever it is for a lens. But since there was a letter here someone set before, a long time ago, I also set a mark here where it is. And I can see there is too much grease on here, so I can just use a cotton pad to wipe away a little of it. There's no need, it spreads too much and will end it up into the aperture blades. No need for that. So there, and the P letter here and my P letter here. So everything should be just put in, and as you can see, yeah, I need to do something more, because the guide pins actually need some kind of grease, because they are absolutely completely dry. And for that I will use the liquid moly and just add a little. Doesn't have to be much in this case. Just add a little on the side and so that's fine on each of them. So that's fine for now. And my letter P, my letter P here, and I can simply put it in and find the two notches here, one there and one there. And when it's done, the focus is actually locked, almost. But I need to go on to the front and see what's happened, because where is the marks here? They should sit there. And you see the optic assembly is where the 3 screws sits correct. So everything is actually fine. So next thing is I will simply add the 3 screws here on the front, And where did my screwdriver go here? So now I'm safe home, and just continue with the assembly of the rest of the lens. And then it will be interesting to see how good is it. With this grease. Maybe it's too stiff, maybe it's, well, I think I have to find another type of greases on the internet, and also try other types of that. So now everything is actually, wow, whoa, that's actually fine. Oh, hold on. It went too close to, I turn it over and then it will pop out of the notch, so I can hopefully, yeah. So now, yeah, it's much better than it was. So, but if you want to use it with a very smooth, maybe the grade 30 is a bit too stiff, so it might be the grade 10 that would do the job. And now I can continue with the inner, because there the aperture connection ring from the aperture ring to the internal part of the aperture blades, which you have the pin on each side here. You see, it will move. So I can put this in, and it can actually only sit in one position. But let's see where it goes there. Of course, it has to sit that way. Let's see. So under the tracer, and you see, in the beginning, I set a mark here on this ring, and I also set a mark here. So those two marks should sit in line at something like aperture 20. No, I mean 16. Is it? No, yeah, 16. So now we have things in place, and you can see the marks are actually, when the aperture ring is on, everything should be in line here. So that's actually fine. How would it be? So maybe I should add just a note, because the two notches here for the aperture should actually also have some kind of grease, so it will run smooth. So I will also do that. Doesn't have to be much, just so it will slide in those gaps. So that's fine. Well, I was thinking about, what about the inner ring here? Should it also have something? Well, I might think, and I will just add a little, just a little, and then it will be spread on the ring. So we can just use a little, just a finger to spread the grease, since this hasn't Has not to be way too much. Then we can put it in again. Wow. And it runs really smooth. Because it was a bit noisy before. And at the same time, when I'm here, I can also add a little grease on the aperture ring. So, and of course there has to be a little more on the notches where the steel ball runs through. So, single will be fine. Now, I think we'll be okay. And then I will, let's see. Yeah, I think we'll put the aperture ring on with the two small springs and the even smaller tiny steel balls. The springs sit here. Just pop them in. And they of course also will need some grease. Yeah, I think it will be fine. Then add a little grease on each of those springs so the steel ball has something to sit on, just like a glue. So that should be enough. I actually made a tool to, when putting on the aperture ring, it's quite difficult to get both steel balls in. I mean, the first one is no problem, that we can see here. You can just add one of this, put it on the grease here. So little fellow, just stay there. Now, it will not fall off because of the grease acts as a glue. But and set the aperture to something like 16, I guess, would be fine. And of course, the aperture number has to sit where the depth of field scale is. So now, where did my steel ball goes? It will say so. So simply put on the aperture ring and find the notches here. One of those. Take care of the bigger notch here on each side. It will go to the pin here and here. So simply put the aperture ring on, but not so the steel ball can pop in, hopefully. It can be a little tricky. Yeah, you see the point where it should go something like that. There. And then we should be able to put on the aperture ring. Here we are. Now, where did it go? Here. So it sits on here, but to actually get the next steel ball in and actually get it to work, I make this little tiny tool which is made of just a sheet metal, stainless steel, and curve it, make a curve so it has the same curve as the part here. So simply put the steel ball in and have this little tool and then press it down here. Hope it makes sense when you see it. Now let's put the last steel ball in. It will sit there. Now the next thing is the trick. I think it works pretty good. Simply have it there and pressing down, and it can be a little tricky to put it in to get the steel ball into correct position. So there, simply slide it in over the steel ball and then you can pull it out, and here we are. So everything is correct and my aperture is working. At least when the parts come in, you can see the aperture can actually move as they should. Be aware of not touching the aperture ring at the moment, because if you pull it out, well, the springs and the steel ball will probably flew away. So I will simply put the back on, the mount here, and since we have this, let's see, the fork here, maybe it's better so this here. The fork is here and it's set to A, and the it doesn't really matter what aperture is set to, but I would set it to fully close. It will say 16 here. Now put the you can see where it should sit when I put the fork on here, and simply put it over and get it into position. Yes, we should be able to do that. Yeah, you can change the focus so it's more near end, more to near end, but don't unscrew it, because the stop, which is the focusing ring, it's not there yet. So if you turn it, still turn it, you will simply the inner helicoid will fall out. But for now I think we are there, and can be able to put in the 3 screws. Just have to catch the holes. Where should they be? Something like there, and screw it in. No, where did they go? Now we try again. Where's those holes? There should be one there, there, and there. Okay, try again. The pin and the fork should engage there, and so. And then I should be able to put in the screws. Yeah. There. So, and the last screw here. And we can see the aperture is actually working. Wow! That's really good. Tighten it gently. There. Now, just make sure we turn the correct way. It's actually working really good. I think well, when the focusing ring comes on, I think it will be much better to turn the the focusing ring. So there, it cannot actually go further because the back is on, so it cannot come further back of the, as you can see, if I turn it, it cannot go any further. But if I go the other way, well, I would just unscrew it. That's not good. So we have 3 screws that sit in kind of a boring here, there, there, and there. Don't forget, it could be different in your lens. And just loosen them, since I also screw the screws in before I clean the parts. It was really dirty. So now we are almost there. My index mark here, my helicoid index mark, and everything is simply in line where it should be. So now it should be in line with the, the index mark should be in line with the infinity mark. So I simply just slide in the focusing ring and just check the screw, the boring, so it should sit there, and then I can screw everything together. Don't tighten it too much. Sometimes they're a little difficult to see, those tiny screws, and there. So how will it be? Yeah, it's much better than it was, but still maybe it's a little too stiff, but I think I'll go for now. The aperture ring is much better. It was really stiff and way too tight before. So I can add the front ring, and I also set a mark on this. Where is my index mark? So you see, screw there, there, and there. And this ring should, in this case, sit like this, because I have a mark there. So the only thing I need to do is screw this name ring on, the front ring on, and then the name plate, and then we are done. And there, and the last screw, so we are safe home. And then the name ring. Yeah, I think it's, I'm actually quite happy with this result. Then this plate, and again the rubber tool, the plumbing tool, as you can say, works really good. And you have 2 different size, one here, there, or this shape can also be useful in many other lenses. And then tighten it gently. That's it. Now we have a fully cleaned focusing system on an old HELIOS. About the this piece of sheet metal is made of something like 0.16 millimeter, which is very thin. And I took it from a computer fan, the heat sink, which was made of stainless steel, and simply took and cut it with a scissor, no problem. And then you have a tool, just have the right shape so it fits on the curve of what part you can make many different of those, or maybe I think it's a very useful tool. Just a note. Well, that was all for me, so hope you enjoyed the content of this old HELIOS. And yeah, that's all. Hope you enjoyed. Bye bye. See you next time.